Hi, welcome back to Focal Point AFR Talk. Great to have you in the conversation today. Just a couple of quick notes before I turn to the main thing I want to address in the monologue today. Latest Gallup tracking poll of voters. This is likely voters, so it's a significant poll. And up until just a couple of weeks ago, you had people on the left saying, hey, Gallup is the most reliable poll you can find. You want to figure out who's going to win the presidential election. Gallup has been right 18 out of the last 20 elections. Those are the guys to look at. Well, they've got Mitt Romney up under likely voters 51-45, actually 52-45. Mr. Romney's total is greater than Richard Nixon's 44% at this point in the race in 1968, Jimmy Carter's 49% in 1976, Ronald Reagan's 39% in 1980, George Bush's 50% in 1988, and Bill Clinton's 40% in 1992. In other words, Mitt Romney's are the best numbers since 1968. Now, that is if he turns out to be the winner in this election. If he wins this election, and he seems to have the momentum, his numbers right now are the best polling numbers according to Gallup since 1968. So that's a pretty clear indication that the momentum right now is definitely with Governor Romney. We'll talk about that more when we get to the bottom of the hour. Now, before we do that, I want to talk a little bit, follow up on something that came up last week. As you are aware, last week I went on CNN. I was interviewed by Carol Costello. And toward the end of our interview, and this is when she terminated the interview with me, is I began, well, she was one that brought it up. I didn't bring it up. She did. The connection between Hitler, homosexuality, and the Nazis. And, you know, I've got a column up this today at rightlyconcerned.com on this subject. And, you know, I indicate in the column, look, it's kind of instructive to me. And we're talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center and this Mix It Up Day, this pro-diversity, pro-homosexual agenda day. And so, you know, it's instructive that as soon as I start talking about the SPLC, Carol Costello starts thinking about Hitler and homosexuality. I said, that's kind of instructive, and I'll leave it to Carol Costello to explain to her listening audience exactly what connection she was making in her brain about all of that. But anyway, they take great offense at this connection between homosexuality and the rise of Nazism. And what I was doing over the weekend as I was switching to a new computer, I had to bring my favorites over. And I've got a number of key links that I have in my homosexuality file. And so I was just opening these links and then bookmarking them on my new computer. And I came across this piece from the Huffington Post, of all places, 2008. This is on the Huffington Post, 2008. It's a piece by the name of a guy named Johann Hari, or Hari, H-A-R-I, Johann Hari, H-A-R-I. Now, this writer for the Huffington Post is a self-admitted homosexual. In fact, he describes himself, quote, as a gay left-wing man. So he's writing this as a homosexual, and he's posting it on the Huffington Post, which is as winger left as you can get. Now, this is kind of an amazing piece. I printed it out at about 6 pages. It's a lengthy piece, 3,480 words, I think. And listen to this. Here is a homosexual writing on the Huffington Post, and the title of his piece, by the way, is The Strange, Strange Story of the Gay Fascists. So he puts gay and fascist together in the title of his piece for the Huffington Post. Now, here's what he says in the third paragraph of this piece on HuffPo. Listen to this. This is a homosexual writing on the pages of the Huffington Post. Carol Costello, are you paying attention? He says this: the twisted truth is that gay men have been at the heart of every major fascist movement that ever was, including the gay-gassing, homicidal Third Reich. Let me repeat, because this is our Fisher factoid of the day. This is a homosexual writer for the Huffington Post saying this: the twisted truth is that gay men have been at the heart of every major fascist movement that ever was, including the gay-gassing, homicidal Third Reich. So once again, this is a homosexual writer, and he is saying that the truth is, historical truth is, that gay men have been at the heart of every major fascist movement that ever was. I want to repeat that because this is our quote of the day. Gay men, this is on the Huffington Post, gay men have been at the heart of every major fascist movement that ever was. So he says that gay men were at the heart of the Third Reich. Those are his words, not mine. Gay men were at the heart of the Third Reich, and gay men have been at the heart of every major fascist movement that ever was in all of history. He says you will find every fascist movement, you will find gay men at the heart of that fascist movement. Now, Harry, by the way, uses the term Gestapo. I mean, that's his term. I'm going to borrow it, and I will use it with attribution. As a writer for the Huffington Post, uses the term Gestapo. And he said the icon for the Gestapo is Ernst Röhm. And Ernst Röhm, this was Hitler's right-hand man, Johann Hari calls him, quote, the founding father of Nazism. So he says Adolf Hitler and Ernst Röhm, that he, along with Hitler, was the founding father of Nazism. So Ernst Röhm, who was a flamboyant, flagrant, out loud and proud homosexual, he, according to Johann Hari, was the founding father of Nazism. So that's our second Fisher factoid of the day. This gay writer for the Huffington Post says that a flamboyant homosexual was, quote, the founding father of Nazism. Now, Röhm served in World War I, and this is what Johann Hari says about him, quote, he was nurtured by and obsessed with the homoerotic myth of the trenches, heroic, beautiful boys prepared to die for their brothers and their country. Like Harry says, the 300 soldiers that defended the pass at Thermopylae. There was a movie that was done about this several years ago called The 300, I think was the name of it. 300 of these fierce warriors, these Spartan warriors or Athenians, whatever they were, defending this pass at Thermopylae. And what a lot of people don't know is those 300 soldiers consisted of 150 pairs of gay lovers. Now, these were the ideal soldiers in the minds of the Nazis. These hypermasculine homosexuals were considered the most ferocious fighters. That's what Röhm thought, is that homosexuals were the most ferocious fighters. So Röhm was the one that spotted the potential in Hitler to head a political movement. They were so tight that for many years Hitler was referred to, according to Harry, again, these are not my words, this is Johann Hari, Huffington Post, that Hitler was referred to, quote, as Röhm's boy and as Röhm's protege. Now, this is an interesting thing because according to Harry, Röhm, who's the founding father of Nazism, quote, believed that gay people were superior to straights and saw homosexuality as a key principle of his proposed brave new fascist order. So here is the founding father of Nazism, believed that gay people were superior to straight people, and he saw that homosexuality was to be a key principle of the brave new fascist order. Homosexuality was going to be right at the center for all 1,000 years of the Third Reich. Now, here's a historian by the name of Louis Snyder. Now, this guy was a distinguished historian. He wrote 60 books, and the New York Times, the New York Times described Louis Snyder as an authority on the rise and fall of Nazi Germany. So the New York Times says this Louis Snyder guy, he was an authority on the rise and fall of Nazi Germany. Here's what Louis Snyder said, talking about Ernst Röhm. Röhm, quote, projected a social order in which homosexuality would be regarded as a human behavior pattern of high repute. This is exactly what homosexual activists are trying to push today. This is behavior of high repute. It's a normal, healthy alternative to heterosexuality. It's the same thing that the founder of Nazism believed. He flaunted his homosexuality in public, so he was out loud and proud. He's the type of guy who'd be down there serving as a volunteer at the Home Depot booth at the local gay pride parade. You'd find him right down there throwing out the little Home Depot jewjaws and all that kind of stuff to people that were attending the parade. Now, catch this. This is what Louis Snyder says. Remember, the New York Times says this guy is an authority on the rise and fall of Nazi Germany. This is what Louis Snyder says about Rome. This is a quote. He believed straight people weren't as adept at bullying and aggression as homosexuals. So homosexuality was given a high premium in the stormtroopers, in the SA, the stormtroopers. Again, this is Louis Snyder. This is not me. This is a historian, wrote 60 books, recognized by the New York Times as the authority or one of the leading authorities on the rise of Nazi Germany. He says that Ernst Röhm, who according to Johann Hari was the founding father of Nazism, believed, quote, straight people weren't as adept at bullying and aggression as homosexuals. And so consequently, homosexuality was given a high premium in the SA. Now, Harry says in the early years, the SA, this was Hitler and Rome's underground army, the SA was seen as predominantly gay. So even this gay writer for the HuffPo says, hey, the stormtroopers, they were predominantly gay. He quotes a homosexual art historian by the name of Christian Isermeyer. He was a contemporary of the Nazis. He said this, in those days, so he was living through this and he knew a lot of the Nazis. In those days, the SA was ultra gay. The SA was ultra gay. So again, gay writer, Huffington Post, Hitler's underground army, the stormtroopers were predominantly gay. Rome did not believe that straight people were as good at bullying and aggression as homosexuals. And so homosexuality given a high premium in the SA. So the bottom line, homosexuality is simply not a benign alternative to heterosexuality. Even the Huffington Post does so. You could look it up.